Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. Now, the topic of today's video is going to be the legendary singer Chris Cornell. Chris Cornell was probably one of the best voices of at least my generation. He was lead singer of Soundgarden, he was in Audioslave, he released several solo albums. But he was born in 1964 in Seattle. He had a very powerful voice, nearly 4-octave vocal range. He was nominated for 18 Grammys during his lifetime. He won 3 of them, and he was ranked consistently in the top 10 in Best Singer and Vocalist lists by Rolling Stone magazine, Guitar World, Hit Parader, and several others. But he was a really, really good singer. He was laid to rest here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. But this in front of me is the grave of Douglas Fairbanks, Jr. and Sr., but Chris Cornell is just up here, and the reason I came down here is because right here on this steps is where Chester Bennington of Linkin Park sang at Chris Cornell's funeral. And as you probably know, Chester Bennington, the singer of Linkin Park, took his own life tragically just a couple months past Chris Cornell's passing. The two were very, very close friends. Now, back to Chris Cornell, he sold over 30 million albums worldwide in his career, but he's laid to rest just over here. Now, Chris Cornell he was part of the Seattle grunge scene, and when you think of that scene, there were only 4 bands that come to mind. You think of Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Alice in Chains. Those were the big 4. Now, Alice in Chains lost their singer Lane Staley, Nirvana lost their singer Kurt Cobain, so Eddie Vedder's the only one that's left out of that group in terms of vocalists. But Chris Cornell, every time you come here, his gravesite is designed just a little bit differently. But as you can see, 1964 to 2017. Now, Soundgarden really started to get known with their 1994 album Super Unknown. It was their 4th studio album, and that was their actual breakthrough. They had songs like Black Hole Sun and Spoon Man. And back when this came out in the early 90s, we didn't have streaming music, which for people today, that's kind of unheard of. And for people before my generation, they had albums and LPs. So what did we have? We had CD stores like Sam Goody. We had CD clubs like Sony BMG. We used to get offers in the mail from Sony BMG that would be pick 3 or 5 CDs for a penny, and then just pay a ridiculously absurd shipping charge. And that's pretty much what we all did. But Super Unknown was one of the first albums I ever got using that service. But they were a really legendary band, and he just had very powerful vocals. He was a great singer. He was an amazing frontman. But Soundgarden got back together after a little bit of a hiatus, and they had a show at the Fox Theater in Detroit, and this was on May 17th of 2017. And after the show, Chris Cornell went back to the MGM Grand, which is where he was staying, and he called his wife. Now, she thought that he was slurring his words a little bit. Chris told her that he took an Ativan or 2, and he was prescribed those as a sleep aid. Now, she was a little bit worried about him. She called his bodyguard to go and check on him, and he went to check on him at about 12:15 a.m. on May 18th, and he found Chris on the bathroom floor. Now, the EMS was unable to revive him. He was pronounced dead at 1:30 a.m. at the age of only 52 years old. Now, no other drugs were found in his system aside for therapeutic doses of prescription medication for sleep and depression, things like that, anxiety meds. Now, the cause of death was suicide by hanging, and Chris had a long history with depression, and, a lot of people do, and it's really sad, but he was a rock star loved by millions of people, but, behind the scenes, you really don't know what people are going through or what's going on in their heads, but, it's a very sad case, very sad thing that happened to him. And, if you are struggling with depression, please reach out to somebody and get some help, because it's really not worth it. But this is the final resting place of Chris Cornell.